spiel. I'm doing my part from Wyard, New Mexico in my office, and Dennis is producing the show and co-hosting the show from St. Louis, Missouri. So what's been going on? Not much out here, just pretty much hot, and been doing a little bit of fiber optic work. The wireless industry seems to have quieted down, but we are trying some different products. We are trialing the Cambium product, the EPMP. Had some success there, wanting to go forward with that and see if that works out. I did sign up with the Aries product. They made it really advantageous for me. If you haven't seen that show on Aries and you provide routers to folks in the house, this is a good product. Puts the power of the router into the people's hands without screwing up their config, which I really like, and it's really, really affordable. They've made it really economical to do that. Kind of take it akin to what you see on the commercials with Comcast, where they're able to maintain their own network, see who's online, and the such. It's a pretty good product. Like I said, just doing a little bit of fiber optic work, and that's about it out here in New Mexico. Dennis, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, it's getting ready to rain. Yeah, we're going to get some rain this week, but that's about it. I mean, life is good. We're getting ready to do some upgrades at our data center, so getting ready to take some servers up there and that type of stuff. But other than that, everything's going really well. We haven't really heard about new products and new services. I did want to point out, though, that today is the last day for the pre-registration for you to go to Wispapalooza. After today, so tonight at midnight, the price changes. This is the your opportunity to pre-buy or to purchase your registration at the cheapest rate possible. So tonight is that night, or is when it goes up. So definitely Wispapalooza is coming up. We're definitely going to be there. It's going to be a great event. Otherwise, I believe we have some other radio shows coming up as well. I believe we actually have Tower Coverage version 3 launch. I believe that's July 5th. So that's, next week? Holy cow. So that's our version 3 of our Tower Coverage application. We also have Legal Wave on July 12th. And the following week, even though we actually have someone on the schedule, I just emailed you, Stephen, I'm actually going to be not available that week, so we need to move that one probably another week.
Not a problem.
So, well, we will have Trina Coffey as the director of WISPA online, and we'll talk about Wispapalooza probably the week after the July 19th event. Otherwise, we're doing really good here. As far as Jim's Wisp, we just got on, or let me rephrase this. We actually have the signed contracts to get on some towers that is in our area, so we're really excited about that. We're going to have a lot more coverage by getting on these towers, so that's always really good. Otherwise, everything's going really good.
Are those American towers you're getting on?
No, they are not. They are privately owned.
Gotcha.
So,
well, for today's show, I reached out to some folks, Redline Communications. When we've got on the phone today, on the show today, Louis Lambert. He's the Vice President of Business Development, and we also have Chris Wyard. He's the Product Marketing Manager with Redline. And I had an opportunity to speak with them a little bit earlier about their products and what they offer, and they agreed to come on the show and share with you guys what Redline's all about. So, you, Louis and Chris, are you guys there?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Can you hear us?
Wonderful. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, and please tell us a little bit about Redline and the products you guys offer.
Great. Well, this is Louis, and with me is Chris. So hopefully you guys can hear us clearly. Thank you very much, first of all, for you guys to giving us an opportunity in this platform to explain who we are and what we do. We have a lot of friends in the WISP industry. We've been in the WISP industry for 15 years. We had some very strong moments and some not so strong moments, and I can cover that in a minute. And I think that at very high level, the company is focused on high quality and high efficiency wireless products. So we have prepared a few slides. We'll just share that with you guys. And obviously, we'll be available at the end for questions. So Redline's been known in the WISP industry for 15 years. We've been shipping product 14, 15 years roughly. About 7, 8 years ago, we did a fair amount of business in our industrial and commercial business, and they were pushing us to do all kinds of new features in the product, and they were coming in with big fat orders for us to be able to do all this new technology. And as a result of that, when we did that, we were not able to do this and maintain the race to a lower sticker price. So our product, about 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago, became not so competitive for the WISP market. It was very good for the industrial market, but not so competitive. And we intentionally kept on doing this, but we knew that eventually the product, and with the volume and the new technology and whatnot, the product would become competitive again, but would come in with all these additional features, mainly security and whatnot. So 15 years later, being in front of WISP, it's really interesting. And I guess this slide depicts the fact that for the last several years, we have been very busy dealing with the industrial space. People that don't care as much how much the radio costs, but they want the ruggedness, the reliability, the security, and whatnot. And with the magic of volume and the magic of good purchasing, we're now be able to put all of this industrial capability that are really designed for long-lasting network into an enterprise price point. So what we wanted to discuss today is a few things about the relaunch, if you want, of our enterprise product line. We have two product lines. We have an industrial product line, and under the hood, between industrial and commercial is very, very similar. But the mechanical of the industrial space is very different. So we'll cover that in a minute. Go to the next one. So what do? We have a number of products. We have two product families. We have a product family called Virtual Fiber, which is what the WISP has been using. Virtual Fiber is high capacity, low latency, proprietary over-the-air interface, multi-point, and it competes with the Cambiums of the world, the Infinet, the Radwin, and whatnot. And the other product line that we have is full-blown LTE. So we do have a full-blown LTE solution with frequency reuse of 1 and available in 10 or 12 bands already. Go to the next one. So the company was incorporated in '99. We have staff in 12 countries. We speak probably 36 languages right now. We're publicly traded. We have deployed very large projects in 70 countries or so. And we have 43 patents that are registered to this virtual fiber technology. 7, 8 years ago, we did not have 43 patents, but what we're going to discuss today is the re-entry of a lower sticker price of the Redline virtual fiber technology without sacrificing all these patents, right? You can go to the next one. So from a product portfolio perspective, you've got the industrial, the commercial, accessories. There are some accessories that you can use in both markets, but most accessories are geared towards one or the other market. Biggest difference for you guys is in the industrial space. A lot of time it's offshore, salt water, or H2S gas and oil field and whatnot. And the reason why we want to talk about the fact that we have two product lines is that today's WISPs is no longer only going after school boards and rural. Today's WISPs are doing ferries off the coast of San Francisco, ferry in Toronto. They will be doing industrial network. There's lots of oil and gas company, forestry company that don't want to build their own network. They're relying on the WISP. So it's nice for you guys to be able to have access to industrial and commercial, not knowing who's listening on the phone. I'm sure some of you guys may have ferry opportunity, rail opportunity, and whatnot in your geography where you operate. And of course, we have a bunch of software in the LTE platform. You want to take over?
Sure. So I'm going to discuss more about the commercial offering that we talked about, all the product lines. I'm going to focus in on the enterprise offering. So basically, what you get in the kit is you get the lightweight mount, you get the Ethernet gland, and you get the POV injector included in the kit. The only thing that's not included is basically the AC cord. And that's because we're an international company, and depending where it's being shipped, a different cord will be dropped in. So the enterprise CPE, this is the one we launched first. It's what we call the embedded antenna, and at 5 gig, it's about 19 dBi. And when this hit the market, it got a lot of acceptance because it's fast deployment. One Ethernet connection, easy to install, and it was getting very, very well accepted. Big challenge was they wanted more from this integrated type solution. So we came up with, recently, the Enterprise XR. XR stands for Extended Range, focusing on X rather than the E, and it's what we call an integrated antenna. At 5 gig, that's a 24 dBi antenna. And again, because it's integrated, one Ethernet cable connection or one cable connection, easy to install. But because it's a higher gain antenna, it has a narrow beam width, and it helps to manage those bands that are a little bit heavier in interference. And just recently, we came out with a new one called the Enterprise RF. Enterprise RF is really just a non-integrated radio. But we understand that, there's cases where you're going to need those higher gain antennas over than these integrated solutions to get those longer reaches. So we do add with our accessories, we have 2-foot parabolics, 3-foot, all the way up to, if you need be, 6-footers. But this particular radio could be used in point-to-point. In fact, all these radios could be used in point-to-point, but they also can be used in point-to-multipoint. It's just option keyed controlled.
So an important point here is that the radios are all software defined. And because they're software defined, if you have a bunch of them on your shelf, one can be used for point-to-point, another one can be used for multipoint, or vice versa. If you want to repurpose the radio, you can actually do that.
Right. And because it's a software-defined radio, we do support several different frequency bands. And one in particular that we do support is our TV white space. We're the only TV white space radio on the market that is a 2x2 MIMO, best to our knowledge. And we do have deployments out there. We have the RF non-integrated solution, and we do have an integrated one called the XR integrated. And again, this is, I'm not sure how many people will be interested in white space, but it is, we are ready for the market for US today, and for the Canadian folks, that should be coming soon. Right now, we've got some very large companies looking at us, and they're testing our product at this time. So, then we have another product line that we've launched. This was it's like a sister series to the RDL 3000. It's called the RDL 3100. It looks and feels like an RDL 3000. The difference is that it supports a 10, 20, and a 40 meg channel size, and it has a Gig E Ethernet interface. We have two form factors, non-integrated, called the RDL 3100 XG, or the Ellipse, and we have the integrated RDL 3100 XG Elite XR. Again, both these radios can operate in point-to-point or point-to-multipoint. If you operate and the only radio that can actually support multiple RF connections is the Ellipse. And if you do run that in point-to-multipoint, it will only be you only can do about 4 subscribers. Get an example of the different point-to-point lengths you can use for the RDL 3100, and you can see that you can mix and match the two form factors, not a problem with that. The one thing I do need to stress is this is a fixed frame system, so GPS sync is required. The other thing to note is this particular model is only available in 5 gig. And when I say 5 gig, that includes 4.9, 5.2, 5.4, and 5.8, and then for the US, 5.1. As I mentioned earlier, you can operate the system in point-to-multipoint. The Ellipse is the only radio that can support multiple RF connections, but we can do up to a 1+4. What that means is we got one base radio, or what we like to call a sector controller, and up to 4 remotes or subscriber stations.
So leave it on this slide. Oh, sorry. So I was going to leave it on this slide for a second. I think for the audience, we know our technology very well, and we ramble this quickly. The RDL 3000 that most WISP are using can have up to 100 remotes. The RDL 3100 is a higher capacity, much higher capacity, but we're not targeting 100 remote, because if you're going to have a high capacity radio, you're not going to want to deliver only 1 or 2 or 3 meg at the other end to 100 people. So the higher capacity is for smaller density multi-point, but much higher capacity. So campuses and whatnot. You would not go after a rural network with a 3100, but downtown high-rise, you can do that with a 3100. So we have two multi-point systems, one for lower capacity, but much greater density of end users, and the other one is smaller density, higher capacity.
Should add that the RDL 3100 only works with 3100, and the RDL 3000 only works with 3000. You can't mix these two technologies because of the RFI. So just to take it a little further with the 3100, I actually have clients that have rolled out the 3100, and in particular, some of these cases they have several cameras they're putting on it, and they're having very good success with this system. So back to you, Louis, to talk about our parallel investment.
So by now you've figured out we've invested in further developing the RDL 3000, and we've invested in developing the 3100. They're a part of the virtual fiber family of products. In the other bucket, in parallel, we're also investing in LTE. So two slides on LTE, and the reason why LTE is important today for the WISP market, but it might have not been important 5 years from now, or 3 years from now. With the advent of CBRS in the States and the changes in the spectrum allocation, LTE will become very important for the WISP community. LTE-U, which is unlicensed LTE, will become important over the next couple of years. But with CBRS, now a WISP can get some spectrum in that CBRS band, whatever its contention or reserve spectrum. And if you read the specs of CBRS, it's really written around LTE. So as a company, both of our product lines, the virtual fiber and the LTE, will be compliant to CBRS. However, LTE license for WISP is almost unachievable in the US unless you consider CBRS band. So the reason why we have a couple of slides on LTE is to make sure that everybody on the phone understands that there are two product lines, both will be adaptable to CBRS. Now, how do you compare these? So we're in a unique position. There's a lot of manufacturers that can talk to you on the phone and say, we've got this technology, it's fantastic. As an example, Steve is testing some technology right now. We're very uniquely positioned because we do have proprietary over-the-air virtual fiber, and we also have standards-based LTE from the same company. So we don't need to try to sell a square peg in a round hole. You want LTE? We have it. You want proprietary? We have it. We're the honesty broker. So we wanted to show you the comparison. If you do uplink and downlink comparison with virtual fiber, we can deliver an uplink and downlink symmetrical 80 megabit per second on a 20 meg channel. With LTE, it's a standards base. Whatever we like it or not, the way it's defined is LTE 9, 10, 11, 13 cannot deliver a symmetrical traffic. And it's not Redline, it's the way the standard is. And you can't cheat the standards because you would not be able to buy CPEs. And in the LTE space, they're called UEs, right? LTE just changed the entire vocabulary. So they're called user equipment. So if you're considering LTE as a WISP and you're talking to some of the small WISP targeted LTE company, most of them don't have mobility. Most of them have not got frequency reuse of one because they're targeting a point-to-point fixed solution. We've got the full Monty. And the other thing that is important to look at is if you're going to not sell a symmetrical surface, so the first column to the left is symmetrical, that would be great for industrial space. The industrial space upstream a lot more than the commercial space. Pump jacks and oil company and whatnot, they stream to the cloud, they don't download from the cloud, right? So it's difficult to do that with LTE. If you're looking at the WISP model, LTE is not bad because it's download centric, and most of the LTE lower grade service offering are download centric. So if you look at the third column, if we want to do download centric with virtual fiber, we're way outperforming LTE, and we're not outperforming Redline's LTE. We're outperforming any LTE because it's a standard, right? So in either symmetrical service offering or asymmetrical service offering, virtual fiber outperform LTE. However, one cannot undermine the fact that LTE has a huge ecosystem, and you will be able to buy CPE for $299, right? They won't be ruggedized, but you will be able to do that. And the other thing that we want to point out to the WISPA audience is that LTE is great for indoor install. It's great for provisioning. It's got a lot of advantage. It's a much more complex. It's a routed network rather than a layer 2 network. It's much more complex. It's much more complicated to deliver. So as a company, we've made a conscientious decision to provide not only the RAN, the radio access network, which in the LTE space is called an eNode B, versus a sector in the WiMAX business, right? So we provide the radio access network, but we also have the core, the provisioning, the HMS, the HSS, and all of the component of the core. So if a WISP today is saying, I'm debating, Louis, should I go LTE? Should I go proprietary? Should I go multi-point? It's a difficult decision. It depends. Do you have access to spectrum? Are you going to use CBRS? It also depends as to what your exit strategy is as a business owner. Do you want to say a WISP and target the B2B in that kind of market? Or do you want to potentially have an exit strategy where you deployed an LTE network and now somebody will buy you, right? So there's a number of questions that have to be asked depending on where you want to be a year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years from now. And the point of that slide is just that we're extremely well positioned as a manufacturer to provide some assistance and guidance because we're not biased versus one to the other. We're the only one. We're the only company in our category that has both technology. So maybe Chris can take over and talk a little bit about the commercial market adaptation for the technology.
Sure. So really the big difference between our industrial line and our commercial line is really the enclosure. The enclosures for the industrial line they were designed for working in some pretty hostile environments, especially to handle H2S gas and stuff. And we recognize that in the WISP market, they don't need all this heavy-duty enclosure. So what we've done, by reducing the type of enclosure we're using, we can reduce costs. So we did things like remove the nickel plating and other hard components. We did not sacrifice on the wireless. The engine in the industrial radio is the same engine that's in the commercial line. And basically, by doing that, we believe we have the best in class to give you the best performance in the product in this commercial vertical. So our industrial versus commercial specifications. So I said before, harsh environments. So we don't have to, they have to work in, HAZLOC, hazard environments, marine environments, have to work in some extreme temperatures. Like we have systems deployed on the North Slope in Alaska. Immunity to noise. We have additional filters added to the ports of our radios to filter out noise that occurs in industrial environments. Sorry. Immunity to dirty power. In industrial, the power is constantly going up and down. It's browning out, so we had to be ruggedized to that. Temperature range. A lot of the clients in these areas have to work in severe temperature, so we could reduce that and help with the cost. But what we didn't reduce was, we did keep some of the security. But one thing we are going, like for example, our commercial radios would not be FIPS certified. It would, that is something that is over and above what we believe that WISP would really want. However, on those radios, we still support AES 256, SNMP version 3, and you can purchase the elliptical curve cryptology for authentication. And the product lifetime life cycle in the industrial market, it is 10 years typically. But we know in the WISP market, things change very fast. And it could, 5 years is probably more than a longer.
One point on this, guys, and I know we have Redline's messaging is very different than all the other companies that are targeting your market, the WISP market, is because we have both technology, we just want to make sure that you guys keep an ear open to the ground. You're business owners, you're opportunistic in nature. So if there's some business, if somebody on the phone is in Oklahoma, not too far from the oil and gas field, or if you're in California next to Bakersfield, right? So there is a need out there for these large industrial companies to not manage their own network, not take care of everything. And some of them would sooner have an operating expense rather than a capital expense. So we want to work with you guys if you have neighboring customers that could use this. And on the equipment on the tower is the same equipment. If you have an RDL 3000 on the tower, you can have industrial or commercial remote on the same tower. And it's really attractive because you can deploy one network and service any customer that you may have in your geography.
So for the commercial line, our key target markets is the digital divide. Basically, those areas that are underserved are very expensive to serve and are usually backed up by government grants. The service providers, the market we're talking to today, the WISP, and then municipalities. Municipalities are constantly wanting to put in surveillance systems. They want to put in intelligent traffic systems. These are all the places where the commercial line can fit very well. So from the service provider applications, we got the commercial portfolio. So as Louis mentioned before, you got the same base radio could talk to commercial radios, our enterprise line, and that same base radio could talk to our industrial radios. So I have already talked to clients that have a system set up and they do have an industrial client in their coverage area, and they're putting in our hardened radios to meet their requirements and still operate their system and work with their commercial clients as well. So it's ideal for the commercial products, B2B connections, rural residential, the digital divide as mentioned before, government grants, so on and so forth. Industrial portfolio, it could be mining, open pit mines, it can be electrical utilities,
a gas plant,
gas
it could
plant,
be a factory,
wastewater,
right.
Lots of different opportunities there. So on government applications, basically backhaul to Wi-Fi hotspots, municipality WAN connections, and as I said before, video surveillance. Industrial portfolio is similar. They also want video surveillance, but they want it for a lot of times for safety and security. Department of Transportation like to use video surveillance, and they also use our system to link up their intelligent traffic systems because our system is fiber-like connectivity. For their systems, public safety networks like to use it for their wastewater management. Typically, parks are really challenging because they're very remote, usually long links, challenging path profiles. We do very well in those areas. Wastewater, as I mentioned before, and even smart grid. Smart grid is not down to the house, but being the infrastructure to connect up those devices that read meters automatically and so on and so forth. So value to the WISP customers. So we have a broad portfolio. We got products that address the enterprise market for subscribers, to business subscribers, to even residential, and we can even roll right into an industrial arm that could be used to manage, to provide connectivity to open pit mines, oil and gas clients, etc. All our radios do include GPS synchronization. So if you buy the antenna with our base radio, there's an integrated GPS antenna. There's nothing else required. All you need to do is really turn it on. We have a range of frequencies. We've mentioned it several times. In the enterprise role, we have TV white space, or UHF, 2 gig, so that'd be 2.4, 2.5, 3 gig, which will be the CBRS band, and the 5 gig, which includes the 4.9 all the way up to the 5.8. High capacity backhaul, even with our RDL 3100s, if they need more than what the 3000, the 3100 can a lot of times meet that need. And we also provide professional services. We can help you guys do your job better. I'm going to let Louis
leave it down for this slide for a second. I'm going to steal the radio that is next to you. So as a WISP, most of your connectivity are going to be fixed connectivity to a school board, maybe a residence, but a place of business. So the kit that Chris was describing earlier on arrives with all the mounting bracket, the arresters, and whatnot. So that's connecting to the tower. Now suddenly you want to go after the city or the municipality and you want to do their wastewater, which he was talking about. The wastewater guys, they want more rugged type of equipment, and they want serial, they want Ethernet, they want 48 volt DC, and they want to be able to either do PoE to the antenna, or they may be old school and they want coax to the antenna. So the radio, the PoE, the serial gateway are all in that box, and then you just get coax going up. All of this talking to the same tower equipment than this one. Now you got your WISP business going, you got this public works, water and wastewater, and then the chief of police or the fire department is saying, hey, you're doing wastewater, you're doing this, you're doing that. On the same tower, connecting to the same tower, you can have this antenna. And by the way, it's all the same GUI, it's all the same board under the hood. You don't need to learn anything new. This is not an Omni. It looks like an Omni, but it's not. This is what it is. Sorry for reaching. This is this antenna. So at the top of it, you have a GPS. You have 10 different beams, horizontal and vertical, right? So the radio that is under, this is going inside here, right? The radio connects, it scans the 10 beams, it finds where the tower is, it's self-provisioned, self-aligned, you don't need to do anything. It could be sitting on an emergency, on a speed trap trailer, it could be command center, and it's still talking to the same Redline radio that you have on your tower for your commercial business. Right. So you don't need to change anything, and I think our message is with a single infrastructure, you can go after multiple customers. Now, let's talk about services for a second. So we know there's a lot of WISP that are very mature, and they have in-house RF planning, they have all of this stuff, and they do everything themselves, and they don't need much help. But we also know that there are some WISP that may not be as mature, or they're opening up a new market, and they don't have people there. So a Redline for the industrial space and for the large customers like DoD or Shell or Chevron or whatever, these guys want to make us accountable. They say, you tell me where to put the towers, you tell me how high to put the towers, you tell me where the tilt and the azimuth for the tower equipment and the remote equipment, and we will build it against your prescription. And if it doesn't work, you go fix it and pay for it. And we step up to the plate. So in the WISP market, it's not as common, but we wanted to just underline the fact that we have the capability to help you build the network in such a way that we will rubber stamp the network. So if you need to go to the bank and you need to borrow money because you want to open up another market, it's great to go with the manufacturer at the bank, and we've done it many times. And we come in with the plan, the RF plan and all of this, and you get to, if you're the banker, and say, yes, Mr. Banker, and guess what? The manufacturer is liable if it doesn't work. So suddenly, you're risk adverse, your risk has been moved to a publicly traded company, and you may be able to get twice the amount of money, right? Next slide. So this is a quick example of RF planning. We don't use freeware. We basically spend about $1 million investing in RF planning and a team of RF planners. So if you have a small deployment, you don't need our help. But if you're planning a big deployment, if you're planning to ask for a lot of money to your bankers or your investors, you may need to show a little bit more depth and detail in the RF planning. So I just want to make sure that you understood. We have this. It comes with Redline, right? It comes, if you have Redline on the tower, you have access to all these radios, you have access to the self-aligning technology, all of this for the same price, right? Go to the next one. So I think we have a couple examples for you.
Yeah, so we're going to just talk about a few of our clients. One is a U.S. service provider called Declaration Networks. They're using our UHF and our 5 gig product line to cover an area in Garrett County. And it's a startup. They needed the help. We did provide the RF coverage and gave them, tower heights and antenna azimuths, so on and so forth, to help them do their rollout. And right now they're deploying, they're rolling out as we speak. They got 50 plus TV white space systems rolled out. They're using 5 gigahertz and they're serving about 300 households right now. So doing very well and growing.
Interestingly enough, they looked at what's available on the market and they decided to go Redline. So the stigma from 5 years ago of Redline, oh my God, Redline's got great technology, but I can't afford it. That stigma is going away as our sticker price has gone down dramatically.
Right. And I'm going to just talk about a Canadian list. It's called NetSet. They basically own Manitoba. They run the rural Manitoba area. And they basically they use our 5 gig and our 3.5 gig radios. They hold 3.5 spectrum so they can use that band. And basically they've standardized with our RDL 3000 product. Now, these guys have tested everything. They've been in the market for a very long time. They used to use our E80Is. They left us for a while. They came back. They started using the RDL 3000, and they are very, very happy. Since March, they have over 150 radios deployed, and they are growing. So this next slide just sort of gives you an overall of all the clients that we have in the commercial arm, and just sort of give you an example there. Plus, we also have an incentive to get things rolling. We have what we call starter or demo kits. There's a maximum of 2 starter kits or demo kits per customer or partner, but this is so you can buy the product without too much money on the table and get some experience with the product, see how it actually works. We believe once you have the system in your hands, once you've deployed it and you see how it works, you're going to want to use it more. Now, these are starter kits, and
this is designed for you guys to
get started,
kick the tires, right? To see, Redline's making all these claims. Let me kick the tires, right?
However, the next one shows our list pricing for when you start buying the product, and Louis, you may want to talk to this a bit more.
So the key message here is, I know you showed all these fancy technology, the self-align. So the pricing is for this radio and a few of the other radios that Chris mentioned earlier on, and I'm sure you guys did screenshots, so you have all of this. So what most people like to look at in the WISP market is, okay, what's my price for one sector and let's say 10 remotes, right? So if we do some quick math here, you're at list price, nobody pays this price, but $2,000 for a sector, and you'd be, I don't know if you can look at the first PMP CP at $395. So let's say you have 10 of them. So that's $4,000 plus 2, that's $6,000. So at $6,000, you've got 10 remotes and you got a sector. If you have to put 4 sector, because these 10 remotes are over 4 sector, you would be at 8,000 plus 4,000, so you'd be at 12,000. So that's 360 degrees, 10 remotes. And from a range, obviously you guys have different tower heights, and I'm not going to make a prediction here, but we can, if you have enough elevation, we certainly can give 10 to 20 megabit per second at 10 miles easy, right? So we have a really good receive sensitivity, and the radio, because of this amazing receive sensitivity, we allow our customers to close longer link better, right? So from an economics perspective, just targeting that kind of customer without even looking at adding up fire and utility and public works and all of this, just your bread and butter business, the pricing that we've released just recently is putting us back in the driver's seat for the WISP market, where we were, not too long ago, that sector would have been $5,000. And, we were great for industrial, but we just couldn't make you guys happy. So the message that we want to leave you guys, and this is the last slide before we're open for questions, but the message we want to leave you guys with is you've got an opportunity to service 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 different use case or site types. Don't limit yourself to only selling fixed site, but go and capture your market. You spend the money to put the equipment on the tower. You're spending money marketing your brand. You're spending money putting a knock. If you were using Redline technology, use this same funding and go after multiple market and bolt on these additional revenue. And also, if you go after public works, the ARPU is much better than a customer that commercial business. And if you go after self-aligned antenna, the ARPU is even better. ARPU meaning the average revenue per unit, right? So the message that Redline delivers is we have virtual fiber, we have LTE. We can be honest with you guys and we can recommend which one is better for your business. And we're uniquely positioned because we have both. We don't need to try to shoe in something. And then in virtual fiber, we have 2 product lines, which is one industrial and one commercial. Chris has very well said, it's using the same chip. It just happened that way. So if you learn how to use Redline at 3.5, at 4.9, you know how to use it in TV white space.
Yeah.
If you know how to use it in TV white space, you can do commercial, you can do industrial. So you only need to learn one platform. And that's a huge advantage, especially from a NOC perspective. And then, if some of you guys have called us in the past and said, can I have a dummy version of this? Nothing in it, I just want to show it to customer, right? Or a picture or something. And it will give you an opportunity to go see the mayor, the chief of police, the guy that takes care of public works. And rather than give business to Ma Bell for an LTE service that don't have much capacity, you can put them on your network. So with that said, I think you want something else to add?
No, I think you covered it. I'm good.
Guys, I think that we're more than happy to take questions. I don't know if that's possible. We'll let the control back to the organizers.
Yeah, Dennis, you got any questions?
No, I'm actually pretty good. I mean, it's all really good stuff, and if I can get both you guys on the screen, there we go. It's all really good stuff, really good information for everybody. So I hope everybody takes the communication, and I'm gonna put up on the screen here real quick. This is their contact number, that 905-479-8344. They also have a toll-free number there as well, so I just tossed that up on the screen just so everybody would have that, as well as Lewis and Chris's email addresses are available right there as well.
Well, I have a few questions. that antenna that you were showing that looks like a big fat Omni, is that designed to go like on a fire truck or a police car?
So there's different mounting bracket. The answer is yes and yes, you can do this. So here's some of the most popular use case. Fire truck as an example for emergency response unit and whatnot. So if you cover the RF, if you have a RF coverage of the city or the municipality, this thing will self-align to your current towers, right? We find a lot of people that put this on speed trap trailers. It's becoming more and more popular where the police department will leave a trailer on the side of the road, and it's got a camera, it's got a speed trap, and it catches, right? But how do they connect to the net? A lot of them are forced to use either 3G or LTE, but it's really poor capacity. So you can put that on a speed track trailer. In the industrial world, people put them on pickup trucks. They put them on drilling rigs. They put them into a plant. There's more and more plants, Coca-Cola plant as an example, with robotic. They'll actually have a robot that drives around for security, so you can put that in there. So it's got multiple use. We have another version that I can't show you right now, but it's the offshore version. You know, it's got the motorized and all of this, and it's self-aligned to put on a vessel. So ferries, as an example, is a great opportunity. And again, if you have a tower, let's say you're in Chicago, right? And you have a tower that near the water or in San Diego, why would you not try to get some of the marine traffic on your network? It's there, you're radiating, capture some of the revenue, right? I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you are, absolutely. I mean, that fits an application that I've been trying to figure out a solution to. And your LTE stuff, you mentioned that you have the core that goes with the, it's like a complete integrated system.
Yeah, so in the LTE world, the intelligence is separated from the radio network, right? So unlike virtual fiber or Cambium and all of these guys, and unlike WiMAX, the RAN, the radio access network, does not have that much smart. The smart sits in the core, and it's designed this way so you can handle handoff and roll all over and whatnot. So yes, we have the radio access network. We have two flavors. We have one that is a combined 2 times 11 watt. So it fits in the carry-on luggage. It's right there on the table. I mean, if we can show it to them. So it fits in a carry-on luggage, and it will the RF propagation of LTE is better than other technology. So with a 22 watt transmit power, you get quite a bit of range, and that's the unit right now. He's going to show it to you so you can see. So that's the eNode B. That's a full-blown eNode B. You just have an Ethernet or a fiber connection to the core, and the core is servers. For the lack of better terminology, the core is where the intelligence is, where the call hosting is, where whatever it's fixed or mobile, it's all in the core. So yes, we do have the core. We have a full-blown core. We're not missing components like many people. And we've actually, Steve, done not LTE waveform with a bastardized core. It's a full-blown 3GPP compliant core. We have used Ericsson's core to manage our eNode B, and we have used our core to manage other people's eNode B. So it's fully compliant. So we've done interoperability with Cisco core, Ericsson core, Nokia core, which is very different than some of the other guys that are trying to sell LTE to the WISP market. And we also have frequency reuser 1 working, because you need to do this for mobility. Frequency reuser 1, guys, is critical, and you need to start listening to this with your business. There's 3 things: multi-fire, frequency reuser 1, and a full-blown core. These 3 things are important because it leads to use any CPE that is available in the market, right? What's good it is to have an LTE solution if you can't use the LTE CPE in the market. So frequency reuser 1, you know how you use frequency 1, 3, and 4 on your tower, and you need to worry that you don't interfere. In LTE, you don't do that. You do F1, 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 and the technology is designed to do this, and that's because most people cannot get much spectrum. If you want to read up about this, you can send me an email. I'll send you all kinds of information. So frequency reuser 1 is very important. If you talk to anybody about LTE for your business today, ask them, do you do real 3GPP? Do you have a core? Can you do a full-blown core? And can you do frequency reuser 1? Because you're not going to be able to get a lot of spectrum. And then the last thing that is really important with LTE is the exit strategy that it brings to you. You don't want an LTE waveform without an LTE compliant solution. You want an LTE compliant solution. So if somebody wants to come in with a big fat check and buy your business, and it's a carrier, it needs to be compliant. If it's a bastardized LTE that feels like WiMAX but use an LTE waveform, then you probably know who I'm talking about. Just stay away from this, because there's no exit strategy. There's no, you're locked in with CPEs. You can't connect. We've got a lab here. We're radiating. If you guys want to see, we're radiating 15 square miles on a private LTE network, and we have about 10 or 15 different manufacturer CPE that we bought pieces of everybody. and you can come and play, and we have actually a full-blown course on LTE if you're interested. So hopefully I'm answering your question.
No, yeah, you have. Appreciate that. I'm interested in the TV white space. Can you tell me a little bit about that? You showed us some speed comparisons with the virtual fiber and your LTE. What about the TV white space?
So he's really the expert on TV white space. I will add the commercial answer on TV white space is because you're so low on the spectrum and because of the physics, it gives you some incredible links. Then maybe you can give him some example. You've done so much work there.
Yeah. So basically, our offering is based on a 6 meg channel size, and you can get some pretty good bandwidth out of it. It is a 2x2 MIMO system, which is unique for the TV white space arena. It works. It looks and feels just like an RDF 3000. And yes, you can do non-line of sight type lengths. I have clients who will put a lot of times, though, you think backwards when you use TV white space. A lot of times they keep the antennas low and they cut through the foliage to get to their location where they're trying to get to. So it's a great addition to existing line of sight technology. So a lot of times our clients will use our 5 gig to get to a point.
Why don't you give them an example of a link, just something that is fresh in mind or something?
Fresh in mind. That's a problem. I don't have anything really fresh in mind. The only one I can think of was in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Was down a road. It was about 3 kilometers roughly, and there was a building in the way, a couple of buildings, and this is a place where they couldn't get traditional line of sight to work. We put up a pair of these radios up, and they linked up basically full speed, and it was jaw-dropping experience because the city guy said, I can't get anything to work here, and he said, I just see it work through a building. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, the big thing at TV white space, to his point, there's a number of manufacturers that manufacture TV white space, but they took their old technology and they down tune or up convert the frequency. So they still have old engine behind it. They may be compliant to the TV white space, cognitive rules. What we did is we took our RDL 3000 2-time MIMO, and we do MIMO A and B on the uplink and the downlink, and we put that in TV white space. So now you get the physics of TV white space and being low on the spectrum, and you get the OFDM A and B engine on top of that physics. So we're far exceeding anybody else that would have just taken up converter to an old technology, right? Usually
where we win is on latency. What they see is with our competitors, when they see the latency, it's quite high compared to us. I've tested with several clients. When they see the latency, they get very, very attracted to it.
Hopefully we're answering your question on TV white space. It's available. US adopted it faster than others. Canada is in the process. Colombia is done. So there is more countries around the world. So I think you're going to see more manufacturers stepping up to the game. Yeah. But so far, we're the only one with a OFDM, MIMO A and B platform.
It's truly a rural play. You can't use this spectrum in urban or suburban. It is truly rural. And there is some steps you should take. And if somebody's really interested in doing TV white space, I've been doing it for a while in the U.S. and I can talk to them with all the the challenges that come with it.
But the database
management, the spectrum, all things you should be doing before you start. So I can definitely help people. And that's one of the things that Redline likes to do. We like to help.
Right.
These were all great questions. I'm wondering if you have any more like this.
Yeah, Dennis, anybody on the chat?
Nobody's on the chat. I checked a minute ago. I can check again, but nothing there. I do have a question on the TV white space. What is your price point per sector, and what's your price point per CPE? What is the maximum throughput of a access point? And what is the max number of subscribers supported?
Okay, so I don't know if you're still sharing the screen.
Yep.
We have the TV white space pricing there.
Yeah.
Are you sharing the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So if you look at the southeast quadrant.
I'll just.
Yeah, I see it.
No, you have to go on this screen.
No, if I highlight it here.
Yeah. So they see it. So
this year.
You have to be cognizant that it's a little bit more money, and it's mainly the antenna is much more money in TV white space. Then, first of all, there's less volume, and it's also so low on the spectrum. The antennas are bigger, and they're different.
Our sector antenna is 5 feet long, for example.
That's the kind of things that it's best to have a phone call and a dialogue, because TV white space is quite different. It's the same RDL 3000, but it's the physics of it are different.
Sure.
And then you were asking for price, so we're giving you this. You were asking it for link and how many CPs, correct?
The max bandwidth per 6 megahertz channel. Do you support bonding of multiple 6 megahertz channels, and then max subscribers per sector?
The max subscribers right now we just do 6 megahertz at this moment, and the max for that is about 80 subs to one sector controller. We are going to be testing bonding with one of our clients in the very near future. So again, with the bonding though, you got to have the channels. Yeah. So it's great to bond, but you got to have the spectrum.
Yeah, we got tons of spectrum.
The question is, how many bits per hertz or how many megabits per second can a sector actually deliver?
So it's basically based on a 5 meg channel size. I'm just trying to comment on. I don't have
50,
that.
roughly.
I want to say 50 meg.
We do about 10 bits per hertz with the RDL 3000. The 6 meg channel, to be safe, he's using 5. So 5 times roughly 10 or 9.7 and some change. Yeah. You'll get about 50 megabit per second at the Ethernet layer.
Then as you double the channel size, the speed doubles.
Yeah, and it
just keeps going up.
So the bonding piece is, as you bond to channel, it may not be 1 + 1 = 2. It may be 1 + 1 equals just a bit less than 2 because of overhead and whatnot. When we usually are very transparent, and we give all the graphs and all the analysis that we do in the lab, so to our customers and prospect. So as we get closer, I'm going to write it down, and as we get closer to delivery, maybe we communicate with you guys and we provide you guys a update on a webinar or something.
Sure.
So as follow up, I'm putting TV white space bonding and update, and I think what we should do is we should follow up with a copy of this presentation if we have not done so already, and you guys can attach it to the content.
Sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, because it's a rural play, you don't have large concentrations anyways, typically. That's something to keep in mind. It's not like you're working in a suburban or urban area. Usually this is truly a rural play, and then they're pretty far spaced out. So you don't get the huge concentrations, but the capability is there if needed.
Well, the big problem that we have is we need, we want to be able to connect 30, 40 customers off a base station, and we want to be able to deliver 5 to 10 meg per sub. And at 50 meg, that's going to be kind of hard, but with channel bonding, that may help. So,
yeah, I agree with you. And if you look at the RDL 3000, we do, like I said, roughly 10 bits per hertz, right? So at 10 bits per hertz on a 20 meg channel, outside of TV white space, you get huge amount of capacity, right? So, and then even without being zealous on oversubscription, you can have a really good business model, and you can certainly sell quite a bit of capacity on this network if you synchronize them and you sell. I'm assuming you're selling a mix of symmetrical and asymmetrical service offering. So depending on what you sell the most, you set up the system to do this. Keep in mind that we also, in some case, we don't need to be synchronized all the time. The RDL 3100, we absolutely want to, but the 3000, if you get some rural deployment and you've got one azimuth that is more important than another azimuth, or you don't need 360 because you're going to be on a mountain lighting up a village, you may or may not want to synchronize a system, and that's where we're very different than everybody else, because in an async, in a variable frame, the remote device communicating with the sector, and it will optimize the duty cycle of that frame to make sure that latency is kept to the minimum. So it's very an interesting thing that Redline does, because if you're going to be doing some rural deployment and you're perched on a mountain and you're lighting up a village, you may not need 4 times 90 degrees. You may need only 1 or twice. And maybe you don't synchronize these and you let it decide on its own, and you're going to have an even lower latency, and you're going to be able to oversubscribe even more. So that's the kind of discussion that we like to have with our clients, and because it's not one configuration fits all. And because it's software defined and you have access to a lot of tweaks in the system, you don't need to, but if you want to, you've got a lot of things that you can change.
Excellent. Steve,
So
I'm out of
I've got
questions.
one question about the 5 gig system. You mentioned that the GPS synchronization automatically comes with the sector that you get and the client radios and such.
Mainly it's on the sector, but yeah.
Right.
I have a sector in this room, but it's on a
It's kind of big.
It's on a pedestal. It's too
It's
big
heavy.
to bring the pedestal. But you picture this, you got a flat panel antenna, let's say 90 degrees. It's about 6-inch wide. It's about 35-inch tall, and the radio is mounted right behind it. He's going to attempt to bring this. The radio is mounted right behind it. At the top of the antenna, enclosed in the antenna, is the GPS. Now here you go, muscle boy. So enclosed is the GPS antenna. So you don't need to worry about cabling and all of this stuff. Here you go.
Oh boy.
Halt here. So we're going to have to move this. Let me move this a little bit here. So see, we can see you got. Well, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, here's on this side, you can see the radio is actually mounted back on behind the sector antenna. Here's the 2 RF connections. On the other side, okay, so this here is the TNC connection for the 1 pulse per second for the GPS. And the GPS, I don't know if you can see it, is actually on the top of this antenna.
So it's a very clean installation, and each one of these antenna comes in with a GPS. So it is very important for some customers, and one of the things that we should have mentioned that we didn't is that if you have 4 of these on a tower, you have a cluster of 4 times 90 degrees. And let's say you have some customers that are really mission critical. They cannot go down. It will happen when you start selling this kind of radio and when you start selling this kind of radio. And they're going to say, this is all great, buddy, but I need no interruption in service. So then you need to sell them redundancy. Well, that's great because that's more revenue. So you can put a second series of cluster on top of it. There's a heartbeat between the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And then the heartbeat will either automatically switch to the redundant one if the first one is shot by a hunter, right? Or it will trigger you to do it manually. Most people want it automatic, and it's on a per sector base. So the other thing that we can do is your primary cluster and your secondary, typically they're in the same channel. So you got, let's say, F1 here, F1 on top. The one on top is mute, and this one dies, it goes to the other one. But we have customers that also want frequency diversity. They'll have F1 here and F3 there, and their remote are set to listen to both channels. And if this one disappears from the map, they will start listening to the other one. How fast it goes? If it's F1 to F1, and all the F1 to F1,
sorry.
If it's the same, and the subscriber loses this one, within about 45 seconds, you'll recover about 80 subscribers. So it's really fast. It's the heartbeat functions very well. We had to do this for military and oil and gas purpose, but it's in the code, right? It's in there. So from a WISP perspective, if you have, and you may not want to do your full redundancy on all your towers, but let's say you have one sector lining up some very critical customer, and they're asking you and they're willing to pay for it, charge more money, and light up the redundancy, right? I'm going to tackle this. Actually, it's not the radio that is heavy, it's that Mass.
Yeah, the mount. Yeah.
It's a beast, and I can't believe I would have just put it here on the floor. You went it all the way to the other end of the room.
So that
any more question, guys?
that sector is operated via power over Ethernet, or can you put an SFP in it? How does that operate?
Everything that we do is PoE.
Okay.
With the exception of we have two radios, like the LTE radio at 22 watt, right? It's not PoE. And we also have a high power version of the RDL 3000, mainly for offshore vessel because they want a very long link. That's not standard PoE. But
right.
everything else is standard PoE. AT type. We consume the remote. This remote radio that we had earlier on will consume about 7 to 8 watt of electricity. We also have a sleep mode feature. If you're going to be on a pipeline or something and the radio is going to get pulled only once in a while, we have a sleep mode feature that the radio will either wake up on a scheduled time, it will wake up with a dry contact alarm, or it will wake up from the base station. So if you've got some place where you have to be solar power on the top of a mountain and there's no way to get electricity, you may want to turn on these capabilities. So you still have a very high power, high capable radio, but it's not consuming all your battery when you don't need it.
All right, I think we're getting close to the end of the show, and I have one last question unless Dennis has one. Okay, so distribution. If I want to buy and try or whatever, do we contact you, or do you have distribution in the United States? How do we get our hands on such?
You go ahead.
We have distribution in the United States. You can purchase through Alliance. You can purchase through Tesco or Tally. And then in Canada, it's basically Alliance today.
Yeah, and if there are some people that are listening in other parts of the world, we have distribution network and integrators, resellers throughout the world. If we did not address that question with your geography right now, just reach out to one of us and we'll put you in touch with the people. All of these distributors are stocking distributor. Because we do, TV white space, 2, 3, 5 gig, we have all the different SKUs. They may not have 100% of a complete complex configuration on stock, but the run-of-the-mill stuff, this and the antennas and stuff, they all have it in stock and they ship the same day.
Wonderful. Well, Dennis, are there any questions on the chat?
There are not. Actually, I need to reconnect. Nope, there are not.
Well, I think that wraps up the show. A great show. I appreciate Chris and Lewis talking to us about Redline, offering up their special versions of LTE, TV Whitespace, and their 365 and 5 gig equipment. Very interesting product lineup. Are you guys going to be at WISPAPalooza this year?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to seeing you there. With that, I'd like to wrap it up. And again, thank you for listening in on the show. And stay tuned next week for more good content from ISP Radio. Thanks a lot, and God bless.
Thank you, guys.